Classroom discussion relates to almost all of the previously discussed strategies, and this module focuses on ways that you can encourage richer discussions in your course. Classroom discussion is a significant opportunity to hear externalized how students are making sense of content or how they're making connections between content. We all have various strategies that we use for discussion, both online and in person. What techniques do you currently use in your courses to facilitate or manage discussion? What are some of the challenges that you face? There are technologies available to kick off your classroom discussions. One application that many faculty find engaging is Padlet, since it can be displayed in real time as students respond. Take a moment to share one of your strategies in the Padlet link on Moodle. Padlet is a great and simple platform for capturing and recording ideas, even as a warm-up to verbal discussion. Discussion techniques are, of course, relevant throughout the entire critical and creative thinking process, and there are different ways that you might use the strategies here slightly differently depending on your course content or what skills you're particularly focused on. One of the most important aspects of getting students talking is to create a healthy environment for it. Some aspects of that include warming up with low-stakes questions that allow students to bring their previous knowledge or lived experiences, allowing students to define the criteria and qualities of a good discussion so they feel ownership of it. This might take the form of starting out by asking the question, what guidelines should we have for this discussion? Being okay with silence and giving time for students to respond, and being structured yet flexible, allowing for free-flowing conversation and some tangents while still keeping the discussion moving forward. According to researchers at the Center for Research on Learning and Teaching at the University of Michigan, if we want our students to engage meaningfully in discussion, we have to first cultivate healthy discussion environments. Start with open-ended questions which invite students to share their opinion. For example, what did you find the most successful or problematic about the main character in Little Women? Use follow-up questions like, why do you say that? Or how did you come to that conclusion? Wait 10 to 15 seconds after you ask the question to give students a chance to think about and respond before asking the follow-up question. Ask questions with multiple answers, which gives students the opportunity to look and share observations from multiple perspectives. For example, how could you apply one of the theories from the reading to the design of your experiment? Relating the material to students' lives could take the form of a question like, was there an idea that emerged from the reading that you see in your life on a regular basis? Or have you experienced something similar to the idea of confirmation bias that we read about? Ask about the content. So rather than saying, does everyone understand? Ask, what is the most difficult to understand about this concept or theory? And finally, decentralize the conversation through small group discussions or using a rotating chair model where students can call on each other. For a successful conversation, the prompt should be specific enough to guide students toward productive discussion and are also open-ended enough to allow for discussion that expands their thinking. There are many discussion techniques ranging in structure and formality. We're going to touch on just a few as examples since there are many resources focused on this topic. We'll briefly walk through the benefits and applications of think, pair, share, small group discussion, the gallery walk, and debate. Think, pair, share is a versatile and well-known strategy that can work for students at all levels and with varying complexity of content. Because students compare with a classmate sitting next to them, this method can be used in classes with inflexible stadium-style seating. It starts by providing the students with a topic or question. First, students think individually about the question, then they pair up and discuss their ideas, and finally the class comes back together to share ideas. In a larger class, a sample of the pairs can be asked to share rather than every pair. Think, Pair, Share promotes inclusivity by allowing those students who benefit from time to formulate ideas to do so prior to hearing the ideas of others. It also allows a low-stakes way to test ideas with a peer prior to sharing with the entire class. Some pointers for this strategy are to explain why you're doing the activity, ask targeted questions, ask students to write down their thoughts as part of the individual thinking process, and then share out with the rest of the class. That debriefing process can assist the instructor in determining where gaps in understanding tend to occur in order to steer a conversation to address those gaps. Small group discussion works best in classrooms where students are at tables or where seating is flexible. Students gather in small groups, usually of 3 to 5, and discuss a specific prompt provided by the instructor. Groups then share out the ideas to the class. Like Think, Pair, Share, this activity promotes inclusivity because students who are hesitant to speak out to the entire class are often more comfortable testing ideas in the small peer group. Also, like Think, Pair, Share, students may be given individual time to formulate thoughts prior to the group discussion. Depending on the purpose of the activity and the amount of time available, groups may all discuss the same question and then share out, or each group can discuss a different question and then report to the class. Again, this debriefing or sharing out process can assist the instructor in determining where gaps in understanding tend to occur in order to steer a conversation to address those gaps. The next strategy for discussion is the gallery walk or chat station. In a gallery walk, stations are set up around the room with questions, talking points, or prompts. Small groups move from station to station, reviewing and discussing what's posted or responding to questions or prompts. A variation for this would be to have students create an informative poster, then act as a tour guide or docent, giving students a short presentation about their poster with Q&A. This can also be combined with small group discussion where posters are created collaboratively. Here are some examples of the types of content that can be displayed at the stations. On the left is a student illustration of the scientific method using visual representations. On the right is a generative activity in a faculty development workshop where a question is written and students answer that question on sticky notes. The gallery walks lend itself to integrating other strategies mentioned in earlier modules such as CI, critical thinking scenarios, and concept mapping and diagramming. Gallery walks are also an excellent structure for incorporating peer review. Here's an example of a gallery walk in a 100-level foreign language course where the students use the CI method to consider different parts of speech. Students post their work without a label, and others match each work to the lexical category. Because of its flexibility, the gallery walk can be used in a multitude of disciplines and situations. For example, showing similarities and differences in artistic movements, illustrating processes such as transcription and translation, comparing the different kinds of chemical bonds, or comparing methods of data analysis. The final discussion technique we'll discuss is debate. This strategy can be especially helpful when the aim is to simultaneously teach how to create an argument and use evidence to support it. It can also be integrated with some of the previous strategies that we've used, like small group discussion. Topics for the debate can be everyday topics that students need little formal knowledge about, or more specific content from the course. It works particularly well when discussing a major and/or contemporary issue with differing opinions and possibly no clear right or wrong answers, such as the topic of labeling GMO foods. It can also be used to call attention to how perspective and understandings of a major issue have changed over time, such as how specific infectious diseases spread. To prepare for the debate, break students into two teams. Assign each team different sides of the debate. Allow teams time to gather information and formulate their arguments. What are the supporting claims and evidence for their main argument? The instructor then asks guiding questions and follow-up questions. In a larger class, a variation to this is to have the students debate in smaller groups and then report out their arguments to the larger group. Delving into the myriad of classroom discussion techniques is beyond the scope of this course, but if you're interested, there are many formalized methods for discussion you can explore on your own.